I usually never regret listening to my gut feeling, and there have been so many times in friendships where I've ignored that and I shouldn't have. But I knew that God was in the process of trying to remove this person from my life. I just didn't want him to, and it was a process of surrender that I didn't want to surrender to. Firmly plant your feet in the ground and know that every single thing happens for a reason and you are on God's timing. It's okay to mourn those friendships ending. You are not a bad person. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabriella. If you are new here, I am so happy that you stumbled upon my channel. If you are returning, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to dive into today's topic because I feel like it's something that we have all been through and all relate to, which is friendship breakups. I'm going to be taking this apart from a Christian perspective and sharing my own experiences and Bible passages to kind of tie everything together and help us understand why friendship breakups happen, how to cope with them, how to separate them from our identity in Christ, our relationship with him, and how to heal from them, and how to recognize red flags in friendships. If you're anything like me, a girl in her 20s, then you know someone who has experienced a friendship breakup, or you have experienced it yourself. I have experienced quite a few in my lifetime, all for various different reasons. I'll never forget my first friendship breakup when I was in middle school. I was 13 and I had a friend in my neighborhood who I had known since a really young age, and we loved hanging out together. We loved fashion. She introduced me to Taylor Swift. We had all kinds of like fashion shows and pretend things that we would play together, and it was so much fun, and I loved hanging out with her. She was very thoughtful and intentional. But I will never forget the day that she called me up on my parents' landline and said, hey, we can't be friends anymore for X, Y, and Z reasons. And I remember as a 13-year-old thinking, wait, what do you mean we can't be friends? Like, I didn't understand the complexities and nuances of friendship. I just thought we have fun playing together. Like, why can't we be friends? And so in my mind, I would try to rationalize things or fix a situation and try to keep it within my own control. And there were tears shed, and there were a lot of conversations with my mom, and there was even a letter that I wrote to this person that I never sent, just to process everything that I was going through. But all of this to say, I thought I could control the situation. I thought I could fix the situation in my own power, and I couldn't have been more wrong. As I got older into middle school and high school and even college, there were many times where I felt left out or unincluded in certain things, or honestly just forgotten about. And I always felt like it was personal and that people just didn't like me or they couldn't accept me or whatever it was. And the reality is, it wasn't as personal as I was making it to be. I am a loyalist to a T. If we are friends, I am going to ride or die for you. I am going to be intentional. I am going to think about the gifts I give you and the notes I write you, and I'm going to want to make you feel special on your birthday, and I'm going to defend you to the death, even if it's not in my best interest. This is the way I have always been. My mom can attest to this, and now my husband Austin can attest to this as well. The first point I want to talk about is quality over quantity. What is biblical friendship? This is something that we have to evaluate when thinking about friendship breakups and makeups. So let's look at scripture and see what the Bible says about friendships. Proverbs 12 verse 26 says, the godly give good advice to their friends, but the wicked lead them astray. Proverbs 13 verse 20 says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. And then the classic passage that we've all heard is 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33, which says, do not be deceived, bad company corrupts good morals. Become sober-minded as you ought and stop sinning, for some have no knowledge of God. So in that passage, Paul was speaking to the Corinthian church, and there were some within that community who did not believe the resurrection. And Paul was saying, like, if they believe something that is false, they are going to lead you astray. And although that may not apply to our specific situation as far as, oh, blank friend doesn't believe in the resurrection, it might apply to, oh, blank friend doesn't obey the word, or oh, blank friend doesn't believe in X, Y, or Z. That is literally what scripture tells us or commands us. And so therefore, their bad company corrupts my character. A passage that is really dear to me about this topic that my mom had us memorized when we were younger is Psalm 1, which says, "How blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He will be like a tree firmly planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and its leaf does not wither. And in whatever he does, he prospers. But the wicked are not so. They are like chaff which the wind blows away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish." And the classic passage is that iron sharpens iron. So we should be making each other better as Christian friends. Here's what Christian friends should be doing. We should be supporting each other. We should be sharpening each other, speaking the truth that our spirit needs and not the fluffy stuff that our flesh needs. We should be encouraging each other, pushing each other closer to Jesus, edifying one another, being loyal and showing sacrificial love towards one another. And we should be protecting one another. If one of our brothers stumbles, we need to protect him and advocate for them on their behalf and be there for them to pick them up in love. Don't mishear me. I love having fun with my friends. I love laughing with my friends, being silly, listening to music super loud, dancing around, having crazy, silly memories. But friendship is more than that. That is on the surface. Those are the beautiful, like, little trinkets that make life worth living. A real friendship is so much more than that, and it's so much deeper than that. It's someone that you can really be in the trenches with, and someone that you can live life alongside of and give biblical encouragement to one another. Because when I was younger, I was only looking at the surface. I was looking for who's fun, who's cute, who has good style, who likes Taylor Swift, who likes all the trendy things that I like. And my mom would always kind of chuckle at me, and she would say, "Gabrielle, you always go for the fun friend. You don't go for the friend that has depth, that will go the distance." And I was like, "You don't know what you're talking about, Mom. That's just like who I like. That's just who I gravitate toward." But as I got into college and then I got out of college, I started to have my eyes open, and I realized, oh, my mom knows what she's talking about, and she was right all these years. Like, I do gravitate towards that, and that's why I continue to be hurt and get burned and put myself in these positions where I'm not in healthy friendships because I'm not looking for sustenance. The next point I want to talk about is the mistakes that I've made in friendships. And I just want to be transparent and say I've not always been a perfect friend. There are mistakes that I have made. I have had toxic behaviors in the past. I have been immature. I have held grudges that I shouldn't have held. I have gotten upset about things that were not worth my energy at all. And I have been that friend who maybe wasn't a safe space when I was in high school because I didn't know how to be a safe space. And I was so consumed with my own life that I couldn't look externally and help others outside of what was going on in my own bubble. And I wish that I could go back in time and change this. And I've talked to some of my friends who I've been friends with for a long time about this, and I'm like, I'm so sorry that I was that friend to you. And how can I do better in the future? And I hope that I've changed and improved. So with that being said, here are some of the mistakes that I've made in friendships. Trauma bonding. Okay, we've been through the same experience. Let's talk about it and harp on it ad nauseum. That's not healthy, and I don't do that anymore. The next thing is ignoring my gut feelings about someone. If I meet someone, usually right off the bat, I have a gut feeling whether they're a good person, whether we're going to be friends for a long time. Now, granted, people change over time, so maybe your gut feeling wasn't right initially, but I usually never regret listening to my gut feeling, and there have been so many times in friendships where I've ignored that and I shouldn't have. The next thing is accepting being put down or belittled in conversations, or having passive-aggressive comments made towards me, or having friends in my life who were not fully supportive of my dreams and goals and what I was currently pursuing. I have several examples of this, unfortunately, because I am the type of person that if you tell me you're going to start a venture, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, a business, Etsy, whatever channel, I will be like, oh my gosh, yes, like, how can I help you? How can I give you tips? Like, let's get this off the ground and running. But unfortunately, I have not been on the receiving end of that as much as I have given that out. Now, I have amazing friends in my life now who are this way, but in the past, this has not always been the case. There have been times where either when I wanted to start a YouTube channel, it was met with, ooh, can you really do that? Or like, you don't know what you're doing. Or like maybe if I wanted to start a different venture, like, ooh, like you just need to stay in your lane. I'm doing this, you do that, girl. And then as I have felt called to share my faith more on social media in the last couple of years, I've had several friends approach me and say, well, whatever video you posted triggered me, and so I really would love if you could ask my permission or run certain videos by me before posting them, since those topics have been discussed between us before. But I'm never gonna do that. And my goal in friendship is for you to know me well enough to know my heart and know like certain topics I'm passionate about, and I am gonna talk about them. And it's not from a place of hate or anything else. It's from a place of really feeling like God is saying, Gabrielle, you have to talk about whatever this topic is. I've also had friends say that they had to unfollow me because whatever I was posting or reposting was triggering them. I'm sorry, but as a friend, again, it goes back to, if you know my heart, if you are walking with the Lord, you won't be offended by something that I'm posting, and you will come to me and communicate about it instead of jumping to conclusions and saying that you have to unfollow me on certain social media platforms. I love my friends. I want to take into account everything that they have been through and everything that they are currently struggling with, but I'm not going to hold back from my opinions. I'm not going to hold back from the things that God has spoken to me. I did that for too long, and I'm not going to live my life like that. I wasted so much time doing that. Another mistake I have made is trying to rectify a situation where I have been maybe falsely accused of something, or accused of something without having communication brought to me, and me thinking, oh, well, if I could just say this, if I could just do that, then I could rectify it and put a band-aid on the situation. But I can't do that. It's out of my control. And another mistake I've made in friendship is constantly seeing people in a positive light and advocating for them, even though they have hurt me. So I do that instead of using my discernment to move on, like I know God wants me to. Number 3, here are some red flags that you need to look out for in friendships as a Christian woman. Number 1, belittling you and putting you down. Not okay. Number 2, claiming Christ, but completely acting the opposite in their actions. That is not a friend that is going to lead you towards the Lord. Okay, now we've got negativity, gossip, guilt tripping, or making you feel stupid or embarrassed for believing what you do or for pursuing what you are pursuing in your life. Another one is excessive criticism without any encouragement. Here are some red flags in friendships that I ignored. I had a friend that was constantly very negative about certain people, always jumping to conclusions about certain things, and very heavily gossiping about people constantly to me. And I really was under the impression that this would not affect me, that I was just helping her through a hard time, and that I was just talking to her about the situation. But as I started to grow in my faith and certain things were revealed to me, I was like, wait, this is not right. I don't want to be talking about other people. And then she would turn around and like befriend that person again, even after I knew all of the terrible things that she had spoken about them. And so once this friendship ended, I was like, oh, she was probably talking about me this way this whole time, and I didn't even realize it. Another red flag that I've ignored in the past is when a friend is not flexible and understanding of my demanding life. So what that means for me is that like I'm married, so my marriage comes first. I'm not single anymore. I can't just make plans multiple nights a week, and I can't text my friends back constantly. I used to be the type of friend who unfortunately would get upset when people didn't reply right away or within a few days, and I thought it was personal, all of these things. Well, now that I have so many commitments and I can barely keep up, like I'm literally staring at a pile of laundry right now, I'm like, I don't even understand how I was like that. But that was when I was in college, and this is now. When I am looking for a friend, I'm looking for someone who is understanding and understands that my marriage comes first before anything else. And of course, I want to make my friends feel special and prioritize them, but I only have but so much to give. And so when my friends are not understanding, or when they get mad or petty about certain things, I'm like, I can't, this is not a healthy friendship for me. And I've had this happen a couple of years ago. Another thing that's a red flag for me now that I'm 26, almost 27, is refusing to communicate about differing political views. I do not care if you have a different political opinion than me. That's not going to stop me from being friends with you. I don't think that you hate certain groups of people or that you don't value human rights if you don't see things the same way as me. I just understand that you come from a different background than I do, and therefore that is fueling your beliefs and your political beliefs. So I really think that it's important to talk about that in friendship, not to like harp on it or to make it like the main focal point, but I think it is worth discussing because I've had so many friendships, especially through the 2020 election and over politics and over posts that I made on Facebook, posts that they made on Facebook, people jumping to conclusions about certain things and people just not understanding one another, and even me making comments that I regret to this day. But I think that if you are able to respectfully talk about your differing political views, then you can actually find so much more common ground and respect for one another in other areas, and then move forward with that understanding and not be shocked when someone posts something or says something that doesn't agree with you. I don't think this is a biblical concept, but I do want to briefly mention it up, which is having friends with a monitoring spirit, like they watch everything you do, waiting either for your downfall or preying on your next move, or just like being jealous of you, but like never actually saying that, and almost like they're a secret hater. I've experienced this more times than I wish that I had. If you're gonna constantly be monitoring every single tiny move I make on social media and then holding it over my head, that's not a healthy friendship, and that's not something that I want to be a part of. So this was like another red flag that I ignored in friendships that I no longer ignore. Okay, the fourth thing I want to talk about is how to let go of friendships, or how to know when God is removing someone from your life. When I was younger, my mom prayed a lot, God, if this person isn't from you, or if this person is not bringing Gabrielle closer to you, then please remove this person from her life. And she prayed this about friends, and she prayed this about boys. I don't know, my mom's intuition is just crazy off the charts, like way better than mine, honestly. And every single time she would pray this, it would be like 2 seconds and then bam, that person was out of my life. And I was like, wait, can you stop praying that? But she still does this because her intuition is crazy, and it's something that I've started incorporating in my life too, and not just about people, about other things too, like, God, if this is not from you, I don't want it. But I think it's super helpful to pray over our friendships. So number one for how you know it's time to let go or God is removing them from your life is if they are pulling you away from the Lord, it is time to let go. Now, I don't mean ghosting this person. I don't mean just saying, oh, I'm done with this friendship. What I mean is communicating about it and seeing, okay, is there any common ground? Can we talk through things? Seeing where they're at in this situation. And then also taking a really hard look at where you are at in life and saying, like, can I continue to be friends with this person? Is this healthy? Is this beneficial? Is this putting me in a good space? I've had people say to me, oh, Gabrielle, why can't you just be friends with everyone? Jesus was loving, like, why can't you be loving? And I am a loving person. I am an accepting person, and I rebuke the lie that is spoken to me every time someone tries to say that to me, because I am. But what I am not is a person who is going to lie down and be pulled towards the world. Jesus was loving, he was accepting, and he did sit with sinners, and he cared deeply about them and did not want them to continue to live in their sin. But his 12 closest disciples were actively pursuing the Lord. Now, Judas, ooh, that's a little awkward. But the people that were closest to him were really striving for something. They were spreading the gospel. They were supporting him, encouraging him, helping his ministry. They were not pulling him towards the world. So whenever people like to say, oh, Jesus was friends with sinners, was he? He was a friend of sinners. Was he friends with them? Not really. He was acquaintances with them, and I think that's an important distinction that we need to make. The next reason to let someone go is if your mental health is suffering because of this friendship. If you are feeling drained or negative just from being around them, and when you get home you just feel like ick, then this is your body and your spirit telling you this friendship is not beneficial for me. I'm gonna tell you something. 2.5 years ago, I went through a very traumatic friendship breakup. It was someone who I loved very dearly and considered a sister, and I do not wish any ill will on this person, and I think of and I pray for them often, but it was really, really hard on me. But I felt like my spirit had been preparing me for it probably for about 6 months before it actually happened. Even though I didn't know that at the time, I know that now in retrospect that I can look back. It's much easier to say, of course. But I remember just trying to have a simple conversation and communicate with this person, and it was met with so much backlash and hostility, and I was so confused, like, why is this person treating me like this? I thought they loved me. But now I can see it from an aerial perspective and say, like, okay, it wasn't all about me. It wasn't all about that person. It was about something deeper going on spiritual. Now, were there outside factors? Absolutely. But was God removing that person from my life on purpose? Yes, because I did not want to let go of this person. I held this person in such a closed fist, and I was not willing to give it up and surrender to the Lord. And then when things kind of came to a head and the night the kind of friendship breakup started going down, I remember I was up all night. I was crying. I was at another friend's apartment. I was having a panic attack, and I was just tossing and turning. I could not sleep. And I was like, God, please help me. I don't know what to do here in this situation. You're gonna have to give me some comfort and some peace. But I knew that God was in the process of trying to remove this person from my life. I just didn't want him to. And it was a process of surrender that I didn't want to surrender to. I didn't want to submit myself to God in this situation. Another reason to let someone go is if they are blatantly walking in opposition to scripture, in opposition to the Bible, but claiming the label of Christ. What I mean by this is really dangerous territory, actually, and the Bible warns about this multiple times. And it's one thing to not be a believer and be walking in sin, because either you do or you don't know, what sin is. Either you used to have a relationship with the Lord or you don't. But either way, you're not actively claiming God, and so therefore, of course, you're not going to honor the Lord with your life. But it is another thing to say, yes, I'm a Christian, but I'm refusing what the Bible is teaching me. Jesus talks about this in Matthew 18. In verses 15 through 16, he says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you've won them over. But if they will not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. If they refuse to listen, even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. And in those times, they would not have associated with those people. And I know that that sounds harsh, but you are not bringing me closer to God by walking in direct opposition to the Lord. I need friends in my life who are 100% submitted to God's will. Does that mean that my friends are going to be perfect and never stumble and never disobey the Lord and never have sin in their lives? No. But what it does mean is that my friends are humble and kind and aware that the Lord can sharpen them and improve areas in their life, and that the Lord wants better for them. Even if maybe they're not walking in that now, they're aware that what is going on in their life is not best for them. And at the end of this point, what I have to say is ask God to show you their character, and he will. Okay, the last and final thing I want to talk about is how to initiate a friendship breakup, or how to cope if you are on the receiving end. How to initiate. I think you need to spend a lot of time praying about the situation and then clearly communicating with this person. I went through a situation where almost 2 years ago, I was having a lot of health issues, staying up in the middle of the night, having anxiety, tossing, turning, it was just so bad. I was so anxious. And finally, I had a heart-to-heart with my husband, and I realized, oh my gosh, it's related to this one friendship that I'm not having a peace about. And it took me a full year to finally take action and to fully obey the Lord as to what he was telling me about this friendship. And I want to say a word of encouragement to you guys about this is once I actually obeyed God with different friendships and things that I knew he wanted me to let go of, I felt so light and I felt so free. I thought I would feel sad and depressed and everything, but I felt the complete opposite, and I knew 100% that I had done what God had asked me to do. And once I had that friendship breakup a couple of years ago, I started to grow exponentially. Not saying it was that person's fault or on my shoulders, but what I'm saying is once I followed through with that, my relationship with God started to exponentially increase and grow and just multiply. And then that's when he called me to share my faith on YouTube and TikTok. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I felt so free and so bold to do those things. And it only continued after other friendship breakups that I've had in the last few years. And I'm so thankful. And that's just a form of God's healing and God's grace to confirm, yes, it's the right thing, girl. I would also say try to find a resolution with this person. I think that's biblical, but if no resolution can be found, then walk in the boldness that you are obeying God and that he has other friendships for you on the other side of this. As for coping, friendship breakups are one of the hardest things that I've ever experienced. I feel like people don't talk about this. It's almost harder than a breakup because you share your whole heart and soul with someone and you create memories with that person and you really think oh my gosh, I'm gonna be friends with this person forever. You have no intention of that friendship ending. And something that I have learned is Friendships have seasons, and I have to hold them with an open hand because I never know who God's gonna take out, who God's gonna put in, and I'm thankful for every single person along the way instead of like taking it so personally like I used to. I would just encourage you to firmly plant your feet in the ground and know that every single thing happens for a reason, and you are on God's timing, and He is doing this on purpose. And I want to leave this point with an encouragement for you, which is Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 through 4, which says, "There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to uproot." Friendships. A time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. It's okay to mourn those friendships ending. You are not a bad person, and you shouldn't feel guilty for even though a toxic friendship ended. Or maybe it wasn't a toxic friendship, but it had to end. It's okay to mourn that and to be sad and to cry and to take it to God and say, "I'm really sad about this. Can you bring me healing? Can you be with me? Can you bring me new friends? Can you bring me community? Like something to support me and encourage me through this transition." And the last and final encouragement I want to share with you guys is, if you are thinking about letting go or you are reconsidering reconnecting with this person, think about this. Think, was this relationship beneficial? Would it be beneficial in the future? And has this person changed? Have I changed? Have we both taken accountability for the ways that we wronged each other? And could we really move forward into a healthy friendship? One of my best friends who I talk to constantly and we FaceTime, she doesn't even live in the same state. We didn't talk for like a year. She was going through some stuff in her personal life. I took it personally because I didn't know what the heck was going on. And then on the other side of that, there has been so much understanding, healing, love, forgiveness. Like, she is literally the sister that God gave me spiritually that I never had. And I'm so thankful for her. But on the other side, there have been other friendships where I thought, should I let them back into my life? I don't really know. Or should I let them go? And I feel like God's just like giving me peace. And He said, hold on, like, don't do anything in your own timing. Just listen to me and trust me and know that I have better things coming on the other side of this. I have been able to walk in biblical community for the last year and a half and create some amazing new friendships that God truly put in my life for a reason. And it's all because I continue to be guided by Him at every step and be okay with friendship breakups happening. It's painful, it's crushing, it's gut-wrenching, soul-crushing, but it happens for a reason. It has to, because friendships are the very sustenance of life. They are what push us forward and propel us to chase our dreams. Friendships are literally so important, and if you are going through a friendship breakup, please know that you're not alone. I've experienced more than I care to count, but as I've gotten older and through each one, God shows me it's not about you. This is happening for a reason. And it's easier and easier to let go for me because I know that God's guiding me. So in conclusion, don't take anything personally, live unoffendable, and communicate. I love you guys so much, and I so appreciate you being here. If you have been through a friendship breakup, you're not alone, and I would love to hear your experience in the comments below. I love you guys, and thank you so much for supporting this channel. Please subscribe and like this video and comment any other ideas relating to Christian topics that you would like for me to cover. I love you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!